Hi, my name is Morgan Gamble, and I am a biology and earth science teacher at the high school in District 116. I recently chose an activity for my biology class that introduced macromolecules. The activity I selected was using questioning as a method of engagement. I think too frequently in the science classroom, in any classroom of that sort, we get hung up on the idea of here's a worksheet, learn the vocab words, read this article, answer the questions, that we forget to sometimes find new ways to introduce the material, or maybe we run out of time, right? Time is a huge issue when it comes to teaching, and so this method is a way to take paper questions and just use them in a more open-ended, fun, engaging way. So the reason I selected this activity was because the unit we were in was macromolecules, and macromolecules in itself is a more challenging unit for a lot of students to understand, especially our students. There's a lot of vocabulary terms that they have never seen before, and that takes a lot of background information to understand. So within this activity, my goal, the objective of it, was to, one, introduce macromolecules, and two, build on their background knowledge. A lot of macromolecules is, sure, we can talk about how our body uses macromolecules, but more so is how is our body receiving some of these macromolecules. So that's where the food comes in. And so our kids, I don't know about you guys, but my kids are constantly eating snacks and talking about food, and they're very food motivated. And so I knew I could tap into that background information that they have, or background knowledge, and try to pull forward and connect this new macromolecule topic to their previous knowledge. So basically my technique was to come up with questions that built upon one another. So I started off simple. What'd you have for breakfast? Okay, and I don't know, as you watch the video, you might notice me saying, okay, well, I noticed there's not a lot of writing on your boards right now, so what do you want to eat? If you could eat anything, what do you want to eat? And so I just had them start making a list of those things. So that's a pretty easy concept for them to grasp. And then I started going into something a little bit more complex. So, well, why don't you use this marker and circle the carbohydrates? And within that, then they need to be like, oh, what's a carb? And so you ask yourself, or I ask them and prompt them, like, if I'm trying to avoid carbs, I'm on a diet, right? We see all the time in newspapers and just social media in general, there's this new diet you must try, stop eating carbs. Okay, so then they start thinking, oh, okay, carbs. And they start circling and underlining different things. And I kept building on that simpler knowledge that the students already have and connecting it to more of the content within macromolecules. This activity was the first activity in the unit, and it is used to introduce a topic that, again, like I said, is not an easy topic. And so it followed a sequence of, okay, here's the first activity, let's introduce it. And then I started building on that knowledge throughout the rest of the unit. And then how did I know the students were understanding? Because towards the end, I started prompting them with questions like, okay, if what do you consider a carb? And they'd be like, bread. And I'd say, okay, so does a sandwich have bread? And they'd be like, oh yeah, so that must be a carb. So you could start to see those light bulb moments popping up in their head. Overall, I think it was a success. My students still talk about not necessarily the whiteboard activity, but they're still connecting those topics to real world. We ended that unit, the macromolecule unit, with a summative lab that had to do with a murder. Okay, so we said there's a murder in Round Lake. Help us solve the murder by analyzing stomach contents. And so through that, they had to tie in their knowledge of the foods that contain carbs, that contain proteins, and that contain lipids. And again, that was pulled from that original questioning activity. So, thank you.